You have to trust me. This is the only way we both get out of here alive. Please.
She refused the alien marriage, so they left her to die. Until one human intervened, the battlefield was silent now. Only the wind howled through the broken towers and burnt metal. The war between humans and the Varkari Empire had ended weeks ago. But death still lingered in the air. Captain Marcus Halle walked slowly through the ruins. His boots crunching on glass and dust, he was searching for survivors. Though he already knew there would be none, his scanner beeped weakly, showing a faint life signal deep inside the wreckage of a fallen alien cruiser. Marcus frowned. No human could have survived here. Not after the orbital strike, but curiosity pushed him forward. He climbed over twisted steel and melted walls, until he saw something moving, something breathing. There, lying among the debris, was an alien woman. Her silver skin was pale, almost translucent, and her armor was torn and scorched. A royal insignia was half buried under ash. She looked more like a fallen angel than a soldier. Her long dark hair spread across the floor like liquid shadow. Marcus knelt beside her, checking for a pulse. It was weak, but there, she was alive. The woman's eyes flickered open, glowing faintly blue. She stared at him with confusion and anger. Her voice was soft but sharp. "Leave me human," she whispered. "I don't need your pity." Marcus ignored her words. He pulled a med patch from his kit and pressed it against her wound. She hissed in pain, but he held her steady. "Easy," he said quietly. "You'll be all right." "I won't," she said. "They left me here to die." Marcus looked around the destroyed hall. "Who did?" "My own people," she replied bitterly. "I refused to marry the warlord of the Drasus clan. My father called me a disgrace. He would rather see me dead than free." Marcus stared at her, surprised. He had heard rumors about royal families using marriage to seal power, but he never imagined they would abandon their own blood for it. He sighed. "That's rough," he said, "but you're not dying today." He lifted her gently, slinging her over his shoulder despite her protests. She was light but tall, nearly his height. Her skin shimmered faintly in the sunlight, filtering through the dust clouds. They moved through the wreckage carefully, every step echoing through the silence. Marcus could feel her trembling. She was weak, but there was strength in her voice when she spoke again. "Why are you helping me, human? You gain nothing from this." He chuckled softly. "Maybe I'm just tired of watching people die for politics," he said. "Maybe I still believe in saving someone." The alien woman said nothing, but her eyes lingered on him, as if trying to understand what kind of creature he was. Humans were supposed to be greedy and violent in her people's stories. Yet this one risked his life to save a stranger. Outside, the sun dipped behind the smoke, turning the sky into a dark red sea. In the distance, Marcus saw flashes of light search patrols. Alien drones still sweeping the ruins. "We need to move faster," he said. Tightening his grip on her, they reached his shuttle, hidden under rubble and camouflaged with debris. It was old, scratched, but still functional. He placed her gently inside, sealing the hatch behind them. The hum of the engines filled the silence. The alien woman winced as the ship lifted off. "You should have left me," she murmured again. "They'll hunt you now." The Varkari never forget betrayal. Marcus sat in the pilot seat and looked back at her. "Then I guess I'll have to stay one step ahead," he said with a faint smile. "And maybe you can tell me your name." She hesitated, then whispered, "Liara. Nice to meet you." "Liara," Marcus said. "I'm Marcus Halle. Human soldier, scavenger, an occasional bad decision maker." A small, almost invisible smile touched her lips, but it faded as pain returned. She leaned back weakly. "Marcus, you don't understand what you've done," she said. "If they find me with you, They will destroy you? He shrugged. They've been trying to destroy us for years, he said. Saving one life won't make it worse. Suddenly, a bright light flashed outside. The scanners beeped wildly. Enemy crafts had detected the shuttle's movement. Marcus cursed under his breath and pulled the throttle. The ship roared forward, weaving through falling debris. Plasma shots streaked past, shaking the hull. Liara groaned in pain. Clutching her side, Marcus turned sharply. Trying to lose them. Hang on, he shouted. We're almost clear. The shuttle burst through the smoke and entered the open sky. But two small fighters followed. Marcus activated his stealth drive, flickering the ship in and out of radar view. After a tense minute, the pursuit lights vanished. Silence returned. Only the steady hum of the engine filled the cabin. Liara looked at him with faint disbelief. You risked your life. For me, she said quietly, you are either brave or foolish. Probably both, Marcus replied, smiling faintly. But I couldn't just leave you there. Her gaze softened for the first time. No one ever refused an order from me before, she whispered. Her eyes glowed faintly again, reflecting sadness and something new curiosity. Marcus checked the scanner again, making sure they were safe. We'll find somewhere to rest, he said. You'll be fine. I promise. Liara turned her head toward the window, watching the stars appear through the smoke. Her voice trembled. You shouldn't make promises you can't keep. Human. Marcus looked at her reflection in the glass. Then I'll just have to keep it, he said softly. Outside, the broken world disappeared behind them. And for the first time in days, the stars seemed alive again. The adventure had only just begun, and neither of them knew how their choices tonight would change the fate of two species forever. And if you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more HFY sci-fi tales like this one. The shuttle drifted through the dark void, its engines humming softly like a heartbeat. Marcus sat in the pilot's chair, eyes fixed on the blinking radar. The galaxy outside was endless and cold, stars stretching like rivers of light across the black. But his mind wasn't on the stars. It was on the wounded alien woman lying behind him. Liara, the one who was left for dead, slept fitfully on the small medical bed, her breathing shallow but steady. Her silver skin caught the dim cabin lights, giving her an almost angelic glow. Marcus had seen hundreds die in battle, but something about her stirred a strange feeling, a quiet determination he hadn't felt in years. He leaned back, rubbing his tired eyes. The mission was simple at first. Recover supplies, scan for survivors, and leave. But now, he'd rescued the most wanted exile in the Varkari Empire, and every bounty hunter in this quadrant would be after them soon. The comms console crackled suddenly. A coded message came through a patrol ping, scanning nearby ships. Marcus quickly dimmed the power and activated stealth mode. The cabin lights dimmed to red. Liara stirred at the sudden shift. Her eyes opened slowly, glowing faint blue again. We're being followed, she whispered weakly. Marcus nodded. Just a routine scan. Stay still. Don't move. But the tension in the air was sharp. The scanner beeped softly, one blip growing closer. Marcus's hands hovered over the control board, ready to fire thrusters or dive into the nearest asteroid field. The patrol ship passed within a few kilometers. The sensors flickered, then silence. Marcus exhaled slowly, pressing his head back against the seat. Liara tried to sit up, grimacing from pain. You are not safe with me, she said quietly. They will keep hunting us. Marcus turned toward her. I figured as much, he said. But I'm not turning back. Liara steadied him, her eyes searching his face. You don't even know who I am, she said. You think I'm just some lost soldier. But I'm the daughter of High Commander Varkar, The man who destroyed your colonies. Marcus froze for a moment. The name hit him like a shockwave. He remembered the reports of Arkar, the conqueror of Titan Base, the one responsible for the massacre of thousands of human civilians. And now his daughter sat bleeding on his ship. He stood silently, processing her words, the weight of it heavy in his chest. "You're telling me," he said slowly, "that you're the daughter of the man who started this war?" "Yes," she replied bitterly. "And the same man who left me to die when I refused to marry his ally, Lord Drasus." Marcus clenched his fists. Staring at the floor, he could feel his anger rising. But then he looked at her again, weak, trembling, more human in her suffering than alien. "You didn't choose your father's war," he said finally. "And I don't leave people behind, no matter their bloodline." Liara looked stunned. "You're strange human," she murmured. "You fight for reasons I cannot understand," Marcus smirked. "Yeah, I get that a lot." He sat beside her, reapplying the med gel to her wound. She flinched slightly, her voice barely above a whisper. "My father's people have a saying," she said. "Mercy is weakness." "Then maybe your people have been wrong all along," Marcus replied. Tightening the bandage, for a moment, silence filled the cabin. Just the faint hum of the ship between them. Liara leaned back, exhausted. "We must reach the outer rings," she said suddenly. "There is an abandoned rebel station there." "I can contact someone loyal to me," Marcus nodded. "Coordinates?" She closed her eyes, murmuring faintly, "Sector Delta 9. Moon of Kerith." He entered it into the navigation console, the autopilot engaged. Stars streaked as they entered hyperspace. Hours passed. Marcus dozed lightly in the cockpit until the sound of Lyra's whisper woke him. She was sitting up, eyes wide with panic. "Something's wrong," she said, pressing her hand to her chest. "What do you mean?" Marcus asked, standing quickly. "There's a signal," she gasped. "Inside me." He blinked. "Inside you?" She nodded, her breathing fast. "My father implanted a tracker under my skin before the last council meeting. He said it was for protection, but now I know. It's to hunt me down." Marcus cursed under his breath, pulling his medical kit open. "Where is it?" She closed her eyes, focusing, then pointed just below her collarbone. "There." Marcus grabbed his scatter and waved it over the area. The screen flashed red an active beacon. "Damn," he muttered. "It's broadcasting every few minutes." Lyra's hands shook. "You have to remove it," she said. "If they find us before Kerith, we're dead." Marcus looked at her seriously. "Removing it could kill you. It's close to your main artery. I'd rather die free than be dragged back," she said, voice trembling but fierce. Marcus hesitated and nodded grimly. "All right," he said. "But you'll have to trust me." "I already do," she whispered. He sterilized the small knife with heat from the plasma torch. His hands steady, his mind focused, Liara gritted her teeth as he made the first incision. A faint glow came from under her skin, the tracker pulsing like a small heartbeat. "Almost there," Marcus said quietly. Sweat ran down his temple as he worked carefully. The hum of the ship filled the silence. Lyra's hand gripped the metal table until her knuckles turned pale. Finally, the small chip came free. Marcus dropped it into a containment pod. Sealing it, he quickly patched her wound. She lay back, gasping for air. "Is it done?" "It's done," he said, showing her the small glowing chip. "But now we need to get rid of it." He opened the airlock. Tossing the pod into space, it drifted out and then exploded silently, sending a shockwave of light. For a moment, both of them stood watching. Then Marcus turned back to her. "You're safe now," he said softly. Liara looked at him, her expression unreadable. "You risked everything for me again," she whispered. "Even when you had every reason not to," Marcus smiled faintly. "Maybe I'm just bad at following logic," he said. But before he could sit down, The radar blared again. Multiple signals appeared on the screen, fast-moving. Closing in, Lyra's eyes widened. No. It's too late. They already found the beacon's last burst. Marcus grabbed the controls. Then we fight, he said, powering the weapons. The stars outside flared as enemy ships appeared from hyperspace, their blue engines glowing like ghosts. The first volley hit, shaking the entire shuttle. Alarm screamed. Lyra tried to stand, clutching her side. Marcus shouted over the noise. Hold on. I'll get us through this. He spun the shuttle downward toward a massive asteroid field. Plasma bolts flashing past. The hull groaned as rocks scraped the sides. Lyra closed her eyes, whispering something in her language. A soft chant Marcus didn't understand the words. But the energy in her voice sent a shiver through the air. The ship dove deeper into the asteroid field. Enemy fighters followed. One clipped a rock and exploded. Marcus used the shockwave to accelerate, pulling them into a cavern within a giant asteroid. The radar went silent again, breathing hard. Marcus shut down the engines, only emergency lights glowing now. Lyra looked at him, her voice trembling but calm. You keep saving me, she said. Why? He looked at her for a long moment, then said, because someone has to. Outside? The asteroid shadows moved like ghosts, and for the first time, Lyra began to wonder if this human was far more dangerous to her heart than her father's armies ever were. Their story had just escaped one death, but something much bigger was coming for them. Something hidden in the stars, waiting, watching, and ready to strike. The hollow cavern inside the asteroid was silent, except for the slow hum of the shuttle cooling down. Marcus had powered everything off to avoid detection. The stars outside were hidden behind the thick rock, and in that cold quiet, the only sound was Lyra's breathing. Her wound was healing, but slowly, Marcus sat beside her, watching the faint silver glow of her veins beneath her skin. He had seen alien biochemistry before, but never this strange. Her body was fighting to repair itself, and it looked almost beautiful. He leaned back, his pulse finally calming after the chase. We'll rest here for a few hours, he said quietly. Then move again before their scanners sweep this sector. Lyra nodded weakly, her gaze fixed on the dark ceiling. You're good at this, she said. Hiding, surviving. You were a soldier? Was, Marcus replied. Fought in the first human colonies when your father's fleets came through. We lost a lot of good people. I stopped counting after the third planet. Lyra turned her head slightly, her expression unreadable. You hate us then, Marcus shrugged. I hate war, he said simply. The people caught in between it. Not so much. She looked down at her hands, her fingers trembling slightly. You speak with pain in your voice, she whispered, but not with hatred. That is rare. Marcus chuckled softly. Guess I'm full of surprises. They sat in silence for a long time. The faint red glow of the emergency lights made her eyes shimmer. Lyra studied him quietly, her mind turning over questions she didn't dare ask. Finally, she said, Back on my world, kindness is seen as weakness. My father would call you a fool for risking your life for me. Marcus looked at her, his face serious but calm. Maybe he's right, he said. But I'd rather be a fool who helps than a king who kills. Lyra's lips parted slightly, but no words came out. She had never heard anyone speak like that before. On her planet, loyalty was earned through fear, not compassion. Yet this human showed a kind of strength her people had forgotten long ago. She winced suddenly, pressing her hand to her chest. The wound. It burns, she said through gritted teeth. Marcus moved quickly, checking her vitals on the med scanner. You're stable, he said, but the nanites in your blood are reacting weirdly. You're healing faster than normal. Lyra's voice grew weaker. It's the purge effect, My body is trying to remove what remains of the tracker. The pain will pass. Marcus watched helplessly as her body shuddered. Beads of silver sweat forming on her skin. He didn't understand her biology, but he could feel the strain in her breathing. He sat beside her, taking her hand gently. You're not alone, all right? Breathe with me. Her glowing eyes flickered open, surprised by the warmth in his voice. Slowly, she followed his breathing rhythm. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Minutes passed, and the shaking stopped. Her hand remained in his, neither of them pulling away. Why do you do this? She asked softly. You don't even know me. You could have left me to die, and no one would have judged you. Marcus looked down at their hands. Maybe because I've seen too many people left behind, he said. And I swore if I ever had a chance to save someone, I would. Lyra's eyes softened, a small flicker of warmth breaking through her guarded tone. You humans are complicated, she whispered. You kill with one hand and save with the other. Yeah, he said, smiling faintly. That's pretty accurate. Suddenly, a sharp alarm beeped on the console. Marcus jumped up, checking the radar. Someone's out there, he muttered. Flicking the screen on for a second, before turning it off again to stay hidden, Lyra tried to sit up. Who? Marcus peered through the small viewport. Two faint blue glows moved in the black. Enemy drones scanning the asteroid surface. Search patrols, he said. If they scan the interior, they'll find us. He moved quickly, adjusting the ship's reactor output. Reducing heat signatures, the power dropped further. The air inside the cabin growing cold. Lyra's breath misted in the air. One of the drones passed dangerously close, their metallic wings glimmering faintly. Marcus held his breath, counting the seconds. He could hear the faint hum through the hull as it scanned the surface. The sound grew louder, then slowly faded away. After a tense minute, silence returned. Marcus exhaled slowly, his shoulders relaxing. That was too close, Lyra nodded. Still trembling slightly. They will not stop, she said. My father's fleet will search every corner of this sector until they find me. He cannot afford for his disobedient daughter to live. Marcus turned to her. Then we'll just make sure he never does. Her eyes met his. You speak like a man who has nothing left to lose. He gave a faint smile. Maybe I don't. For a moment, the silence between them was heavy. Then Lyra whispered, If we survive this, I want to see your world. I want to understand why humans fight so hard. Even when there's no hope. Marcus looked at her, the corners of his mouth lifting slightly. You might be disappointed, he said. We're messy, stubborn, and loud. She tilted her head slightly. You also care. That makes you dangerous. Before he could respond, the ship trembled slightly, a faint vibration through the hull. Marcus frowned, checking the sensors again. That's not a ship, he said slowly. That's movement inside the asteroid. Lyra's eyes widened. What do you mean movement? A low rumble echoed through the cavern. Dust fell from the ceiling. Marcus grabbed the controls. Activating minimal thrusters, the radar flared a massive organic life form was emerging from beneath the rock. The asteroid wasn't dead. It was alive, a deep. Thunderous growl echoed through the hull. The creature's body was massive. A serpent-like being that had burrowed into the rock, glowing veins pulsing with blue light. Marcus powered up the engines. Hold on, he shouted. The ship lifted off as the creature's jaws opened, releasing a beam of energy that tore through stone like paper. Lyra clung to her seat, her voice trembling. That's a void serpent. They feed on reactor energy. Of course they do, Marcus muttered. Jerking the ship upward, the tunnel collapsed behind them. Fire and molten rock chasing them upward. The serpent followed, roaring, its eyes glowing bright white. Marcus fired a burst from the rear thrusters. blasting debris back into the creature's path. The ship scraped against the rock, sparks flying across the cabin. Liara's hand shot out, glowing faintly blue. "I can distract it," she said, "but you must get us out." Marcus shouted, "Don't even think about it." She ignored him, focusing her energy. A surge of light burst from her palms. Filling the tunnel, the serpent recoiled. Blinded for a moment, Marcus seized the chance. Pushing the ship through the final gap into open space, the ship spun wildly before stabilizing. Marcus gasping for air, Liara slumped forward. "Exhausted, Liara," he called, running to her. She was unconscious. Faint trails of light still glowing under her skin. He knelt beside her, brushing hair from her face. "You're safe now," he whispered. Though his voice trembled, outside, the asteroid cracked apart. The serpent drifting silently into the void, and in the dark quiet of the stars, Marcus realized something he hadn't felt in years' fear. Not of dying, but of losing her. As he held her hand, the faint hum of her heartbeat filled the cabin. Steady and soft, somewhere deep down, he knew this wasn't just survival anymore. Something was changing between them, something neither of them was ready to admit. And far away, in the heart of the Varkari Empire, a shadowed figure stared at a holographic map, eyes narrowing on the lost signal. "So," said the cold, metallic voice of High Commander Varkar, "my daughter lives." His lips curled into a smile that was anything but kind. Then the human who stole her will die. The stars outside the viewport looked calm, distant, and endless. But Marcus knew peace was only an illusion. Every second they spent floating in the dark was a borrowed breath. A pause before the storm. Liara finally stirred awake after hours of deep, silent rest. Her silver eyes fluttered open, faint light shimmering within them. Marcus was sitting beside her, half dozing, blaster in his lap. His armor was cracked, his face marked by exhaustion. But his gaze softened when she moved. "You're awake," he said quietly, standing. "How do you feel?" "Alive," she murmured. "Because of you." Marcus smirked faintly. "You're getting good at not dying. I'll give you that." She smiled weakly, but then looked away, her voice low. "You could have left me on that asteroid. You should have." Marcus shook his head. "Not really my style." He walked back to the cockpit, checking the radar. The silence stretched between them for a moment. Then Liara said softly, "My father will not stop until he finds us. You understand that, don't you?" "Yeah," Marcus said, flipping a few switches. "I figured." She hesitated before speaking again. "Then you understand. Being near me will eventually kill you." Marcus turned slightly, his expression calm but firm. "Maybe, but until then, we keep moving." Her eyes met his, and something in them flickered, a spark of respect, or maybe something deeper. After another hour of flight, they reached the edge of the outer rings, a cluster of shattered moons and abandoned colonies orbiting a dying star. Marcus slowed the shuttle, guiding it toward an old station hidden among the debris. It was a massive metallic ring with broken turrets and half-lit corridors. Once a trade hub, now a ghost. "This is the place you mentioned?" Marcus asked. Scanning the structure, Liara nodded. "Yes, this used to be a rebel outpost. Some of my father's enemies might still have contacts here." Marcus frowned. "Or it could be a trap." She looked at him, her voice firm. "Everything is a trap. Human, the question is, who sets it first?" He chuckled under his breath. "Fair point." They docked the shuttle quietly and entered the station. The corridors were dim, air stale, lights flickering. Marcus held his rifle low, scanning corners. Liara followed closely, her armor patched, her movements cautious. As they turned a corner, a shadow moved ahead, a tall alien with cracked armor and tired eyes. He stopped when he saw Liara, disbelief washing over his face. "Princess Liara?" He breathed, then quickly knelt. "You live?" Rise, she said, her voice calm but commanding. You served under Commander Valen, didn't you? Yes, he said. Before he fell in the siege of Drakkar, I never thought I'd see you again. Lyra's tone softened. The rebellion still breathes? The alien nodded. A spark remains. We hide now, but we wait for the right moment. Marcus watched quietly, his hand still near his weapon. The alien glanced at him warily. And this human? He saved my life. Liara said simply, He is under my protection. The alien hesitated, then bowed slightly. Then he has my respect. They followed him through the winding corridors into a hidden chamber filled with flickering consoles and makeshift weapons. A small group of rebels looked up as Liara entered, gasps and whispers spreading among them. By the stars, it's her, one muttered. The princess who defied the High Commander. Liara stood tall despite her fatigue. I did not die as my father wished, she said, and I will not rest until his empire burns. A murmur of approval rippled through the room. Marcus watched her, her confidence returning, her fire reigniting for the first time. She didn't look like a wounded exile, but a leader, one of the rebels. A younger alien with narrow eyes stepped forward. We have a hidden transmitter, he said. We can contact the others scattered across the sector. The signal is encrypted. It might take time, Liara nodded. Do it. Hours passed. Marcus stayed near the door, keeping watch. Liara spoke with the rebels, planning, mapping. Every word she said carried strength, but Marcus noticed the exhaustion hiding beneath it. Then, suddenly, the base lights flickered. A faint tremor running through the floor. Marcus frowned. That's not power fluctuation, he said. That's an approach signature. The rebels looked up in alarm. Impossible, one shouted. No one knows this station still exists. But Marcus's instincts screamed otherwise. He grabbed his scanner. The readings were clear. 2 ships inbound. War-class engines. Lyra's voice hardened. They found us before anyone could react. The room exploded in chaos. A blast rocked the corridor outside. Metal walls buckled, and fire tore through the air. Rebels shouted, blasters drawn. Marcus pulled Liara down as plasma bolts ripped through the walls. We're compromised. He yelled. The younger rebel from before, the one with narrow eyes, stood frozen, guilt flashing across his face. Lyra's gaze locked on him. You, she hissed. What did you do? He trembled, stepping back. I sent the signal, he stammered. They offered me safe passage. Credits, I didn't think. Marcus didn't let him finish. He punched him hard, knocking him to the floor. You just signed everyone's death warrant, he growled. But there was no time for rage. The enemy stormed in elite soldiers in black armor, Varkari insignia glowing on their shoulders. Liara grabbed a blaster from a fallen rebel. Marcus covered her flank. They moved together like instinct. Years of training meeting shared desperation. Plasma fire filled the chamber, rebels falling one by one. The sound of metal boots echoed through the hall. Marcus shot 2 soldiers cleanly, ducked behind a broken console, and shouted, We need to move now. Liara covered him, her aim sharp, each shot precise. Each movement fueled by fury, they fought their way through the corridors. Smoke and screams behind them, the young rebel, bleeding but alive, whispered, I'm sorry. Before collapsing, Liara didn't look back. She and Marcus reached the hangar bay, but a blast door sealed shut before them. Locking them in, Marcus cursed, We're trapped. Lyra's eyes glowed brighter. Not yet, she said, raising her hand. Her energy flared. Burning hot, she released a wave of force that melted part of the door. Marcus fired his blaster into the weakened metal. The door cracked open, revealing the docking bay beyond. As they ran through, Liara stopped suddenly. Turning back to look at the burning corridor, her voice breaking. They all died because of me. Marcus grabbed her shoulder. No, he said firmly. They died fighting. That's what matters. She looked at him, eyes filled with both rage and sorrow. I won't let my father win. Then don't, Marcus said. But we need to live first. They reached the shuttle, the engines sparking as he powered them up. Enemy ships closed in outside the station. The sky filled with plasma streaks as they lifted off. Explosions rocked the structure below, the old rebel base collapsing in fire through the smoke. Liara looked down at what was once her hope for rebuilding. Now turned to ash, Marcus glanced at her. You did what you could, he said softly. We'll find another way. But her voice was cold, distant. There's no we anymore. Marcus, she whispered. After this, he'll come for you. 2. Marcus looked straight ahead, eyes steady. Then let him, he said. He's not the first monster I've faced. Outside, the rebel station broke apart, drifting into the void like dying embers. And far behind them, on the bridge of a massive warship, High Commander Varkar watched the explosion from his throne of steel. His red eyes narrowed. So you survive again. Daughter, he muttered, let the human think he's her savior. I will make him watch her fall. The hunt had become personal. And now the entire galaxy would burn in its wake. The journey to the Varkari capital took 3 days through forbidden star routes. 3 days of silence, exhaustion, and a growing tension that neither Marcus nor Liara dared to break. The shuttle was patched with scrap metal, running on barely enough power to keep the life support alive. But Marcus flew with a soldier's precision, avoiding detection grids and patrol frequencies as if he'd been born among the stars. Liara sat beside him, staring out at the shifting colors of hyperspace, her mind a storm of guilt and fury. She had watched the rebellion die again, all because she trusted the wrong person. Marcus glanced at her from time to time, reading the emotion in her eyes. He'd seen that look before in soldiers who'd lost everything and refused to die quietly. You haven't said a word in hours, he said finally, his voice low. You planning my execution in your head? Her lips twitched faintly. Not yet, she murmured. But I am planning my father's. Marcus gave a small smirk. Then we're on the same page. Liara turned toward him, her expression softening. You don't have to come with me. Marcus, once we reach the capital, I can go alone. He shook his head. You think I came this far just to drop you off at your father's doorstep? Not happening. Her gaze lingered on him, her voice dropping lower. You don't understand. He's not just a ruler, Marcus. He's a monster who controls minds, armies, and fear itself. He will try to break you. Marcus's jaw tightened. Let him try. She sighed, knowing arguing with him was useless. Then we need a plan, she said, leaning forward. There's a maintenance route through the capital's underbelly old waste tunnels that lead to the main palace. If we reach the lower levels, I can access the control vault. Sounds fun, Marcus said dryly. Any chance it's not crawling with death machines? Liara gave a faint smile. If it were easy, it wouldn't be worth doing. Hours later, they dropped out of hyperspace. The Varkari capital loomed ahead, a planet encased in rings of metal and fire. Glowing cities floating above black oceans. Fleets of warships patrolled the skies like vultures, circling their prey. Beautiful, Marcus muttered, in a terrifying, dictator kind of way. Lyra's voice grew quiet. That's home. He guided the shuttle toward the shadowed side of the planet, flying low through debris fields and storm clouds until they reached a canyon of jagged rock and metallic ruins. Hidden inside was a maintenance hatch, a forgotten path into the city. They landed silently. Marcus grabbed his gear, and Liara donned her cloak, hiding her armor and markings. Her silver skin dimmed as she activated a cloaking field. blurring her features into something more human. Ready? He asked, checking his blaster. She nodded. Let's end this. The tunnels below were cold and dripping with condensation. Ancient machinery still humming deep beneath the surface. They walked for miles in silence, their footsteps echoing softly. Every turn felt tighter, darker. Finally, they reached a massive steel gate with alien runes etched across it. Liara placed her hand against the symbols. Blue light flickering under her touch, the gate hissed open slowly, revealing a long corridor filled with holographic banners of the High Commander. Marcus frowned. You sure this doesn't scream trap to you? Liara smirked faintly. Everything in my father's empire is a trap. The trick is walking through it before it snaps. As they advanced, they could hear faint mechanical footsteps ahead. Drones armed and patrolling. Marcus crouched low. I'll take the left, he whispered. Liara nodded, raising her hand. A soft pulse of energy rippled through the air. The lights flickered, and the drones short-circuited one by one. Collapsing with faint metallic thuds, Marcus grinned. Remind me never to argue with you. Too late, she whispered, her lips curving faintly. They moved deeper into the palace's lower sector until they reached the Chi, vault of command chamber filled with holograms of every war front. Every colony, every enslaved species under Varkari control. Liara's breath caught. He's expanding again, she whispered. This was never about uniting worlds. He's building an empire of control. Marcus's eyes narrowed. Reading the displays, these aren't battle plans. They're trade agreements, look human colonies. Signed under something called the Alliance of Dominion. Liara's heart sank. That's the marriage treaty I refused, she said, her voice trembling with fury. My father promised me to Lord Drasis in exchange for human labor and soldiers. He was going to enslave your kind through politics, not war. Marcus stared at the glowing maps, his stomach tightening. So all this time, humanity was just another piece in his game. Liara clenched her fists. That's why I refused. I couldn't marry into a genocide, suddenly. A deep mechanical hum filled the chamber. The floor vibrated. A holographic image flickered to life before them, tall, armored, with eyes like molten iron. Daughter, the voice boomed, cold and regal. You've come home. Liara froze, the blood draining from her face. Father, she whispered. The hologram smiled faintly. And the human, he said, eyes turning toward Marcus. The soldier who defies death for a lost cause? Marcus raised his blaster. Funny. I was about to say the same thing. Varkar's laughter echoed through the hall, low and cruel. You think courage makes you powerful, human? You are a flicker of flame in a storm that has burned for centuries. Liara stepped forward, anger trembling in her voice. You tried to sell me. You called it unity, but it was slavery. My child, Varkar said softly, you were never meant to understand. The universe survives through submission, not freedom. That's where you're wrong, Marcus said coldly. Humans don't kneel. The hologram flickered, replaced by flashing red lights. Security breach detected. A mechanical voice droned. Doors slammed shut. Alarms blared. Marcus grabbed Lyra's arm. We need to move now. They sprinted through the corridors as drones and armored guards poured in. Liara unleashed waves of energy, knocking enemies back. Marcus fired precise bursts, covering her flank. The palace walls shook as explosions rippled through the structure. The rebellion's encrypted signal Liara had triggered it before the alarms went off. Outside, across multiple star systems, rebel forces received the code. Volkar's throne has fallen. Rise, back in the palace. Marcus and Liara reached the upper hall, smoke and debris falling from the ceiling. The doors ahead burst open and armored titans stepped through. Twice Marcus's size, its voice metallic and monstrous. Lord Dras's, Liara breathed, hatred in her eyes. The alien warlord's voice boomed. You were promised to me, princess, and now your life will be mine. Marcus stepped forward, blaster raised. Over my dead body, Drasus grinned. As you wish, he swung his massive blade, sparks flying as Marcus dodged. Firing at exposed joints, Lyra's power flared, her blue energy colliding with Drasus' red. The entire hall shuddered under their clash. Marcus leapt forward, slamming his shoulder into Drasus' knee. The giant stumbled, roaring. Lyra screamed, her energy surging brighter, pure light bursting from her chest. The explosion threw them all apart. Smoke filled the air. Drasus fell to one knee, armor cracking. Marcus dragged Lyra back, coughing. Not done yet, Marcus growled. Firing one last shot straight into Drasus' core, the warlord fell, his armor smoking. As the dust settled, Lyra stood over the fallen titan, her voice shaking but firm. No one owns me. Outside, the city alarm screamed. The empire was crumbling. Fleets turning against their command. The rebellion had begun. Marcus looked at her, battered, bleeding, but defiant. What now? Lyra stared at the glowing horizon of her homeworld. Now, she said, we take the throne, and far above, hidden behind the shattered clouds, her father's flagship descended slowly toward the capital, its shadow stretching across the world. The true battle, the one neither of them were ready for, was just beginning. The capital burned. Flames licked the metallic spires and turned the night sky crimson. The once proud world of the Varkari Empire now looked like the mouth of hell itself. Marcus and Lyra ran through the shattered palace corridors. Smoke curling through the air, alarms wailing like dying screams. Everywhere they looked, chaos ruled. Rebel signals flickered on communication lines. Lyra's call had worked. Entire colonies were rising. Cities were rebelling. And fleets once loyal to the High Commander were breaking apart in civil war. But inside the capital, there was no victory yet. Not while her father still lived. We need to reach the command bridge, Marcus said, checking his weapon. If we take control of the main broadcast tower, we can show the truth to every planet in the Empire. Lyra nodded, her eyes glowing faintly blue through the smoke. And if my father gets there first, he'll twist that signal. He'll make me the villain, Marcus grinned tightly. Then we better beat him to it. They sprinted through the ruined halls, stepping over fallen soldiers, both Varkari and human. The smell of plasma and blood filled the air, but there was no time to mourn. Suddenly, a door exploded ahead, sending shards of metal flying. Marcus threw himself over Lyra, shielding her from the blast. When the smoke cleared, towering soldiers in black armor stormed through. Their leader, taller than the rest, stepped forward. Eyes glowing red. Human, the voice growled. You should have stayed dead, Marcus smirked faintly. I get that a lot, blaster fire erupted. Marcus rolled behind cover. Firing back, Lyra raised her hand, sending a wave of blue energy that slammed two soldiers against the wall. But the leader kept coming, his armor absorbing her blasts. He lunged, swinging a plasma blade. Marcus blocked with his rifle, sparks flying. The blade sliced the weapon in half. Forcing him to dodge backward, Lyra fired again. Her shot catching the leader's helmet, it shattered, revealing cold mechanical flesh beneath. An android, Marcus spat. Not just any, Lyra said grimly. That's my father's right hand, General Vorn, the machine grinned, half its face twitching with static. And you, it said, turning to Lyra, are a traitor who deserves the slow death your father promised. Come and try, she hissed. They fought side by side, Marcus grabbing a fallen blaster, firing at weak points while Lyra unleashed bursts of energy. The floor shook from the force of the battle. Every shot, every hit. Every scream echoed like thunder through the burning corridors. Finally, Marcus saw an opening. "Liara!" He shouted, "Now!" She slammed both hands forward. A blast of pure energy erupting from her body. The android screamed, its chest glowing white-hot, before it exploded in a storm of light and debris. The blast knocked them both to the ground. Marcus rolled over, gasping. His ears ringing, Liara crawled to him, helping him sit up. "You all right?" she asked breathlessly. He coughed, still breathing. "Barely," she smiled faintly. "Then we keep moving." They pressed on through the ruins until finally, the doors to the command bridge came into view, massive and sealed with ancient locks. Liara approached, placing her hand on the panel. "It only opens to royal blood," she said. "My father made sure of that." The lock glowed blue, scanned her palm, and hissed open. The bridge was massive, filled with holographic displays showing every system under Varkari control. At the center stood the High Commander himself, tall, armored in obsidian, eyes burning red beneath his crown of steel. "Liara," he said softly, almost kindly. "My lost child." Liara stepped forward, her voice steady but trembling with rage. "Your reign ends today," Varkar smiled. "You think you've won, little one? You've only lit the fuse to humanity's destruction. Your rebellion is a flame that will consume everything." Marcus raised his blaster. "Funny. That's exactly what we came here to stop." The High Commander's gaze shifted toward him. "Human," he said, "you've corrupted my daughter with your foolish ideals. You speak of freedom, yet your species were ready to kneel for comfort. I offered them order. Order built on chains isn't order," Marcus shot back. "It's cowardice." Varkar's laughter echoed through the bridge. "You mistake mercy for weakness," he said, raising his hand. A pulse of energy hit Marcus square in the chest, sending him flying into a console. Liara screamed, firing back. Her blast collided with her father's, the two energies clashing in a storm of light that shook the room. The air itself seemed to tear apart, lightning flashing across the floor. Varkar's voice roared over the chaos. "You defied me for a human, Liara. You betrayed your bloodline. I chose my own destiny." She shouted, "Something you never allowed." Varkar's power surged, pushing her back. Sparks erupted from the walls. Marcus struggled to his feet, coughing blood. His vision blurred, but he saw her falling to her knees. "No," he whispered, dragging himself forward. "No, not like this." He reached for the control panel, his mind racing. There had to be a way to help. Then he saw at the ship's energy core, glowing behind armored glass, connected directly to the commander's suit. He understood immediately. The armor drew power from the ship itself. Cut that line and Varkar's strength would die with it. "Liara!" Marcus shouted. "His power, it's linked to the ship." She looked up, realizing it too. If the core breaks, the whole palace could collapse. Marcus's eyes were cold, determined. "Then we end it." Together, he sprinted toward the control console as Varkar turned, fury blazing in his eyes. "You dare!" Marcus slammed his fist down on the reactor control. Alarm screamed, red lights flashing everywhere. Energy surged wildly through the bridge, arcs of lightning cutting through the air. "Marcus!" Liara shouted, "You'll die." He looked at her, a faint smile on his lips. "Maybe. But at least I'll take the monster with me," Varkar roared. Lunging toward him, his blade impaled Marcus through the side. But the human didn't stop. He grabbed the commander's arm. Holding him in place, Lyra's eyes went wide. "No." Marcus gritted his teeth, blood spilling down his armor. "Do it, Liara." Tears filled her eyes. "I can't." "Yes, you can," he said softly. "Finish this for a moment." Everything froze. The fire, the noise, the world. Then Liara screamed. Pouring all her power into the core, her body glowed like a star. The energy bursting outward in a blinding storm, the entire palace erupted. Shockwaves ripped through the capital, tearing towers apart. Ships above the city shattered under the blast. The High Commander's roar echoed one last time before the light swallowed him. When the explosion faded, the world was silent. Hours later, in the ruins of the throne room, Liara awoke amid dust and fire. Her body weak, her head ringing, she looked around. The bridge was gone. Half the city destroyed, Marcus? She whispered, crawling through the debris. Her hands shaking. Then she saw him, buried under twisted metal. His armor cracked, his eyes barely open. She knelt beside him, tears streaming down her face. No, stay with me. He smiled faintly. Guess I kept my promise, he murmured. Didn't leave you behind, she sobbed. Gripping his hand, you saved everyone, Marcus. You saved me. His fingers tightened weakly around hers. Good. Then it was worth it. Don't you dare die, she said through tears. You hear me? His voice was barely a whisper. You'll build something better. I know you will. Then his hand went still. Liara bowed her head, the light in her eyes dimming. But then, from the corner of the shattered bridge, a flickering hologram appeared. It was the rebel fleet, hundreds of ships, their signals spreading across every screen in the Empire. A voice crackled through. This is Admiral Rin. The High Commander is dead. Repeat, the tyrant is dead. All systems rise. Liara wiped her tears. Standing slowly, she turned toward the camera, her voice trembling but strong. This is Liara Varkar, rightful heir to the Varkari throne. The age of tyranny is over. From this day forward, humans and Varkari will stand as equals. The message spread across the stars, carrying with it a new dawn, and deep in the ruins behind her, the faintest sound came a weak breath. Marcus Hala wasn't gone yet. His heart still beat, slow and stubborn, like humanity itself, refusing to die even in the heart of an empire built to destroy it. But far beyond the stars, something else stirred. A shadow left behind in the explosion. A fragment of the High Commander's will, floating among the wreckage, waiting for the right moment to rise again. The war was over, but the story of the human who defied an empire was only beginning. The capital world of the Varkari Empire was silent. Smoke rose from the ruins like black rivers, and the once proud towers now lay broken, bleeding molten metal into the ash below. The war was over, at least for now. But the silence that followed was heavier than any battle cry. Liara stood on the balcony of what remained of the throne chamber, her cloak torn, her silver hair streaked with soot. Her hands trembled as she looked out at the endless city. Everywhere she looked, the fires of rebellion still glowed, but so did life. Humans and aliens working side by side, pulling survivors from wreckage, tending to the wounded. For the first time in generations, the Varkari capital breathed the air of freedom behind her. The faint sound of machinery hummed. Medical drones hovering around a small, dimly lit bed. Marcus Hall lay there, wrapped in healing fabric, pale but alive. The machines whispered faint rhythms that matched the beat of his heart. Liara approached him slowly, her boots echoing against the cracked floor. She knelt beside him, her voice soft but shaking. You stubborn human, she murmured. You should have died 100 times by now. He stirred faintly, eyes fluttering open, his lips curling into a weak smile. Told you, he whispered, voice rough. Hard to kill a soldier who still owes you a drink. Lyra's laugh was half a sob. You fool, she said. You nearly destroyed yourself to save a world that isn't even yours. Marcus blinked slowly. That's where you're wrong, he said. It is mine now. She turned her gaze to the burning skyline. Her heart heavy, the rebellion had won. But victory was a word soaked in blood. Half her people were dead, and the other half were lost. And somewhere deep in her heart, she could still feel the echo of her father's last words, his promise that peace would only bring weakness. She refused to believe that. She had seen courage, kindness, and sacrifice in a single human heart. And that was stronger than any empire hours later. She stood before the remaining council members generals, captains, scientists, even human envoys from liberated colonies. The great hall was quiet. Her voice rang clear. The High Commander is dead. The warlord Drasis is gone. The empire is broken. Murmurs spread through the crowd. She continued, but the question remains, what replaces it? One of the alien elders stood, his voice trembling. Your father's empire kept order through fear. Without him, chaos will spread. Liara met his gaze firmly. Then we'll build a new order, one based not on fear, but on trust, humans and Varkari together. We share the same stars, the same losses, the same will to live. A human representative stepped forward, saluting, and if your people can forgive ours, then we'll stand with you. Liara nodded slowly. There is nothing to forgive, only something to rebuild. Applause rose, hesitant at first, then stronger. But even as the hall filled with hope, something in Lyra's mind whispered that this peace would not last. Later that night, she stood again beside Marcus's bed, the moonlight reflecting on his face. He had recovered enough to sit up, his strength returning slowly. You made quite a speech today, he said softly. Didn't think you liked politics. I don't, she said, sitting beside him, but someone has to stop this cycle. I won't become what my father was. Marcus looked at her, his eyes tired but proud. You already broke that chain, he said. You gave people hope. Liara turned toward him, her expression serious. And you, what will you do now? He was silent for a long time, and said, Go home, maybe. He paused, looking down. If there's still a home left to go back to.